hearing is called to order at 6:01 p.m. on Monday, September 12th, 2022. This meeting is being held via WebEx as per New York State legislation extending virtual access to public meetings under New York State open meetings law, which allows New Yorkers to virtually participate in local government meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony with respect to a request to co-name Avenue N and East 19th Street to Eddie K. Way. CB14's policy on street co-namings are to defer to the relevant New York City Council person, as street co-namings are administered through omnibus bills proposed in the council. This hearing will be held at the request of New York City Council member Ina Vertikoff. The applicant for the proposal is 1199 SEIU, which is being represented by David Krantz. The proposal is supported by Eddie K's family. Vladimir Fortuny will speak on the family's behalf. First, we will invite public testimony. Members of the public were asked to register for time to testify by email at the Borough office. We have 3 pre-registered speakers. Each speaker will be permitted to speak for up to 3 minutes and may not receive additional time from another speaker. Following public testimony, we will then take questions from CB14 board members. Please state your name clearly for the record and the organization, if applicable, prior to giving testimony. So again, the 3 pre-registered speakers that I have is David Krantz from 1199, Vladimir Fortuny, 1199, and Lily Carino from 1199. Mr. Fortuny, has Mr. Krantz joined us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. We are ready for your verbal presentation whenever you are.
Okay. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'll try not to be too long, but it's very hard when talking about Eddie. Just so everybody knows who I am, I've spent 42 years active in 1199, and I knew Eddie throughout that whole period of time, although his activity long predates me. To start with, really, the first thing to know is Eddie was described by many in the labor movement as an organizer's organizer. He is really one of the greatest labor organizers, I think, of our time, not just in 1199, but really in the labor movement in the 20th and the 21st century. And if that sounds like hyperbole, I will try to fill that out, but it really isn't. He was an extremely special person and an incredibly accomplished organizer. Eddie's career started in 1199, way back in 1962. He was an active rank and filer in the small pharmacy division of the union, but he was very accomplished. And by 1967, the union had hired him to be an organizer and then soon what we called an area director, VP of the Queens, Long Island area of 1199. This was a time when 1199 was still doing a lot of organizing and growing. And it was mainly based in Manhattan and somewhat Brooklyn. Queens, Long Island was sort of a frontier. And really, Eddie, not solely, but I would say in the main, was responsible for the union's growth in Queens and Long Island. He was literally responsible, was the lead organizer for many hospitals, including Flushing, Southside, St. John's Episcopal, and numerous nursing homes. This was also a time when the union was organizing, quote unquote, nationally, when 1199 was trying to expand beyond New York City to upstate New York, as well as to Connecticut and Pennsylvania. And I think you've probably received some materials, but Eddie was absolutely key in helping the union organize, particularly in Pennsylvania and in Connecticut. There's just numerous stories of Eddie participating in strikes, frankly, of Eddie suffering police beatings in those efforts. There were numerous times I for a project, interviewed the longtime leader of 1199 in New England, Jerry Brown, And he told me of numerous times when Eddie would bring up literally hundreds, thousands of members, workers in Long Island in buses after work to go to strike support and support the organizing efforts in Connecticut. So this was the kind of organizer who Eddie was. In particular, Eddie led the campaign to organize New York Presbyterian Hospital, which at the time, 1973, was the largest private hospital in the country. This was a hospital which 1199 had attempted 2 previous times to organize. It was just too difficult. They had failed. But when Eddie took over the campaign, it was a success. But beyond all of Eddie's organizing victories, because there are, frankly, many other organizers in the labor movement who can also have a lot of victories notched up of successful campaigns, and that's no small thing. But it was also how Eddie did what I call internal organizing, the quality of the unions that he built. And as a person who spent close to 18 years of my 1199 activity as a steward delegate at Mount Sinai Hospital, I can tell you this is not an easy thing to do, to maintain the level of involvement and engagement of the members so that you have not just a union that's doing good things for people, but that you really have it become an organization that's owned by the workers themselves. And the quality of what Eddie built in Queens, Long Island really had to be seen to be believed. As militant as 1199 was in the years of the 70s and up to the early 80s, when you would go to a demonstration in Queens, Long Island, it was like being in a different world. There were more people, the level of enthusiasm was noticeably higher, and the rallies were completely run by the members themselves. It was really something. And Eddie ran and sustained that level of involvement over decades in that area, which is an extremely difficult thing to do. It really was a labor movement, not just an organization that did good things for people. In the mid 80s, the union went through some bad times. It came under, frankly, not progressive leadership. Many of the progressive organizers were purged, and we were faced with the character of the union fundamentally changing. And many of, as I said, progressive organizers, including Eddie, lost their jobs in 1984. We launched then a rank and file movement to try to take back the union. And this was no mean feat. 1199, although not as big as it is today, was already a very large organization, something close to 80,000 members over 5 boroughs, Long Island and Westchester, composed of literally hundreds of separate shops. Eddie Kay led that effort. He just threw himself into it. He got a very part-time job to sustain himself as a maintenance worker at Albert Einstein College of Medicine. And he basically took on a campaign where his quote-unquote staff were rank and file workers, not full-time organizers, because there was no full-time organizers. And to make a long story short, it was an amazing campaign, and we won the union back. It was a very close vote. There's no way that happens without Eddie's organizational genius. That movement then spawned the 1199 that many of you probably are familiar with, the 1199 that would have the presidency of Dennis Rivera for years, and then after Dennis, the presidency of George Gresham for years. But none of that is possible without the victory of that rank and file movement in 1986, and that in turn is impossible without the efforts of Eddie Kay. And after that, Eddie played a key role in the union that, you know, in the 1199, after those years, he was the secretary treasurer, then a union-wide organizer responsible for the internal organization. Countless leaders in 1199 were mentored by Eddie, mainly in New York, but also many outside of New York. And much of the leadership, including people like George Gresham, will tell you what a profound influence Eddie Kay was on them and therefore on the character of this incredibly powerful organization we know known as 1199. Eddie left 1199 in 1999, but to say he retired would really be a misnomer. He instead then spent close to another 20 years literally working right up to the moment where he just became too ill to work anymore at age of 89. And he worked with too many numerous unions to count, but I'll just mention a few of them. He threw himself in to help the new leadership of the Transit Workers Union and trained literally thousands of stewards. He helped workers in the laborers, Local 78, who are asbestos workers, mostly Hispanic immigrant workers, take back their union away from corrupt leadership. He worked with bus drivers in Staten Island and Brooklyn in the Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 1181. Fighting against, frankly, outright mob figures who threatened him, didn't bother him at all. He helped 32BJ. He worked with AFSCME District 1707. He worked on numerous political campaigns and progressive campaigns. it is the other thing I had to mention is that Eddie's work ethic was almost otherworldly. He worked routinely 16, 17-hour days, and he never ever stopped. And this was all the way into his late 80s. There's so many individual anecdotes I could tell, but I don't want to take up more time than I should from this meeting. But I could certainly answer any questions. But in short, 1199, as we know it, this powerful union, would not exist. Anything like it exists now without the unbelievable efforts and organizational genius of Eddie Kay. And frankly, so many other unions will tell you the same thing. All those unions he helped in the last 20 years of his life. He was one of a kind, and I can't think of a person more deserving of this honor. I just want to just sort of quote from a play, but he may not be as famous a name as some other top labor leaders that we know from history books, but the fact is, the ones we know about the least, they're the ones who did the most. And that certainly fits Eddie. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that testimony. Just a bit of housekeeping. I have several people who have called in and they are not muted. Please press *6 on your phone to mute yourself or use the manual mute button on your phone. Thank you, much appreciated. I believe we'll be hearing from Vladimir Fortuny next. And we have just a few minutes.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Vladimir Fortuny. I'm a family member of Edward Kay, and as well as co-worker who work along the side with him for some years, but I've been a member of the labor organization as 1199 since 1997. And I just want to switch and to tell about Eddie being a Brooklyn man. He was born in Brooklyn on East 7th Street off Avenue M. He lived all his life and worked all his life in Brooklyn. He refused to live, he refused to move, although all his siblings and friends, they were living everywhere, but he would always say, I am a Brooklyn man. I was born and I'm gonna die here. He lived on the street where we're talking about on the East 19th Street since beginning, since early 1940s. His parents bought the house on the East 19th Street when he was 10 years old, and he spent all his life pretty much there. He's very well known in the community. He is a very proud Jewish man who pretty much spent all his life in his belief. He loved his neighbors, and they sure loved him. And his mother, Helen Kay was daughter of immigrants from Poland and Austria. She was born in Brooklyn. She lived in Brooklyn and she died in East 19th Street. So is his father, who was immigrant from, he was born in Ukraine, somewhere between Kiev and Odessa on the way in 1902. He came to United States and he was a pharmacist all his life, running the pharmacy, and in early days of life, Eddie used to work in his pharmacy, and he was saying how important that was for him to learn how to communicate with people in the community, as well as the being involved in the labor movement. You know, we had huge affairs right here in the house when, no exaggerations, hundreds of people will come and they will just hang out here, you know, communicating. And like David says, he was a very extraordinary man, that he was all about the individuals and the people. He was fierce fighter for the justice and for diversity in our union. He was good, you know, example of how to be a nice human being, what is the real communities about, and the racial justice was one of his keys that he dedicated his life. He marched in the South alongside with Martin Luther King, and his famous, on that famous bridge when he was very young man, and that was something that he was trying to bring into the minds of younger people, everybody who he was teaching. You know, he spent quite a few years teaching at Cornell University, and he was very an orthodox teacher. You know, his classes were standing up classes where people were freely speaking their mind and holding hands and expressing everything that was in their hearts. And the way a lot of people describe, you know, it just came to mind. And like I said, there is numerous articles after Eddie passed went into in different newspapers by the people who respected him greatly, and they express the sorrow and their dedication to his work. So East 19th Street between Avenue N and Avenue O always was his homeland. It was his safe place. And I spoke to neighbors, of course, on the street, which is a lot of neighbors. Mostly it's a religious Jewish community, and I have some references, which is I would be glad to share. But he will be missed by everyone because he was very special part of this street, of this community. And I just thanks this board for taking and listening to us, taking time to let us express this gratitude about Eddie's life. And thank you.
Thank you very much for that testimony. I just want to go through the chat and recognize some representatives and electeds that had joined us. First, I'm just going to go by the order in which I have them in my chat. Community Board 14 Chair Emeritus Alvin Burke is here. I see that Council Member Farah Lewis is here. Welcome. I see Eileen Mullaney Newman, our liaison from the Borough President's Office, is here. Let's see what else we have. Miss Lisa Derrick, who's representing Assemblymember Rodney's Bishop Hermelin. Nancy Lulu from the District Attorney Eric Gonzalez's office. And lastly, I believe we have the Chief of Staff for Councilmember Vernica's office, Troy Olson here. I believe he has to call in. Certainly want to open up the floor to the council member's Chief of Staff if he has any other words. Otherwise, I'm going to move this meeting into the question. I have one other registered speaker, which is Lily Carino. I don't see her in the chat. She might be a call-in. And
And I think that she was going to defer to her colleagues who've already spoken.
okay, wonderful. Okay, so seeing none. Oh, thank you. Anthony Beckford is here. Sorry, I have to add you to my list. Special Assistant to Member Brian Cunningham. Thank you for being here. So I would like to open the floor to board members for questions if they should have them. We have just about 3 minutes. And feel free to raise your hand. I'll call on you. Seeing no questions. Oh, go ahead. Corazon Valiente, board member. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to find out if there was some place to go to read more about Eddie. The way that he was presented, he sounds like a tremendous person, and I would love to learn more about him.
Definitely, was quite a few publications about him in numerous newspapers and on the websites. And if you just Google Edward or Eddie K-A-Y, I believe a lot of information will come, including the, from the port site, from New York Times, from 1199, from Daily News, from numerous other, publications that it's very difficult to say right away out of the hand, but you definitely will see. And also as well, I would be glad, we will be glad to share whatever information we have on file, which was sent by the Lily Carino, who's unfortunately not present, to the committee to share with you guys so you can read its extraordinary materials. And I'm Corazon, I'm sure you will be fascinated to read a lot of good things about that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Joe Dweck for a brief question, and then we'll ask the Chief of Staff, Troy Olson, to close it out. Joe, did you have a question?
Sorry, I apologize. Yes, I did. Thank you. First of all, I thank you, Chairwoman. In my 30-some years on the board, to my knowledge, we've never done this for anybody who wasn't a firefighter, an officer, or a fallen officer, or a military. Does anybody remember ever this happening before?
No, I do. There hasn't been a request for a public hearing by a city council member, which is the way we've done it. There's a deference to the city council member since they're the ones that have to introduce it in council on an ombudsman intro. But I know that this board did approve a street co-naming for Saul Bruckner over by the high school, who's none of a fallen firefighter or NYPD. And there have certainly been a number of co-namings in the community that didn't go through a community board requested hearing process, who are also neither of those things. So there's definitely precedent in this community.
And just to add, Edward K. served in the military. He's a veteran as well.
Thank you. I seem to have lost Troy Olson in the call-in list. So I would like to move, is there a motion from the floor to approve this street co-naming?
Gail Smith, motion to approve.
Is there a second to this motion?
And I'll second.
Thank you. We'll vote in the reverse as we usually do, which is the easiest when we're remote. So I'll go ahead and ask if anyone here is voting no to approve the street co-naming. Feel free to raise your hand or call out. Seeing none, is there anybody who wishes to abstain?
Joe Dweck abstaining.
Anyone else?
Florencia, abstaining.
Thank you.
Dawn Walker abstaining.
I see in the participant list, I got you, Don.
Okay.
Moshe Schoenfeld is abstaining. You can put your hand down.
Staying Ephraim Nirenberg.
Okay. Anyone else? And then is anyone ineligible to vote? So I unfortunately am an 1199 SEIU member. I am ineligible to vote for the recommendation to approve the co-naming. My apologies. So we'll go ahead, and since there was a flurry of abstentions, we'll go ahead and tally that, and I will report out at the general meeting what the vote was.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank both of our presenters for their public testimony. You really gave Mr. K a wonderful sense to all of us in the words that you presented. Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and close out this public hearing. It is now 6:26 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone. Just hang tight, and in 4 minutes, we'll be moving to our next public hearing. Thank you.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, 6:30.
Thanks. I just have to read something. Give me a minute.
Okay.
Thank you for your patience. That was an important text. Okay, it's 6:31. Moving on to our second public hearing. This public hearing is called to order at 6:31 on Monday, September 12th, 2022. This meeting is being held via WebEx as per New York State legislation extending virtual access to public meetings under the New York State Open Meeting Law, which allows for New Yorkers to virtually participate in government meetings during the COVID-19 pandemic. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony by community members with respect to fiscal year 24 budget recommendations to Community Board 14. These will assist the board in its development of priorities for city resources and services in the city's fiscal year 2024 capital and expense budgets. Community Board 14 posted the form and the survey for suggestions and/or recommendations by Flatbush and Midwood community members regarding what is needed in their respective communities on its website at www.cb14brooklyn.com. District Manager Campbell will continue to review responses to determine whether suggestions can be handled through the regular service delivery process or to include them with capital expense budget requests. Members of the public were asked to register for time to testify by emailing the board office. We do not have any pre-registered speakers. I will kick it over to Sean Campbell.
Thanks. Yeah, no pre-registered speakers, but it was really gratifying to get so much participation in that survey. And the survey was sort of designed along the lines of the Department of City Planning and Office of Management Budgets platform on which we submit the district needs statements. So it really does give us a good deal of sort of backup as we submit and organize those priorities to reflect community input. 88% of the people who responded live in the district and 14% work here. If you do the math, that means some people both live and work in the district who responded. Just a quick overview in Health and Human Services, the sort of overwhelming response was to homelessness prevention, supporting programs for that. And then secondly, mental health outreach and street outreach to those who are experiencing street homelessness. Under youth education and child welfare, there was a large push for workforce development. Also gratifying because I think it backs up the work we do with the youth conference. And then a sort of close second, a sort of bunching on the bar graph between immigrant youth programs, early childhood, and after-school programs. Community safety got a overwhelming response to support nonprofit organizations that provide services for violence disruption and cure violence efforts. And then a lot of support for headcount, staffing and personnel improvements in NYPD, FDNY, and EMS. Core infrastructure, I don't think it will surprise anybody who's looked around in the neighborhood. There was a lot of support for additional sanitation services, including restoration of manual litter patrol, which is my main song this season. There was also increasing basket collection, and then a strong second, third for flood prevention, which is something else this board has had its eye on for a while. Wrapping up with housing. Oh no, there's a couple more. Housing, economic development, land use. There was a request for increasing the inventory of affordable housing, and then a close second was preserving existing affordable housing. Also something we've been focused on a lot in the past year or so or more. Transportation got a lot of support for upgrading subway stations, including accessibility, improving mass transit ridership experience, and then some traffic calming and safety and roadway maintenance. Those all sort of bunched together on the bar graph. Parks, culture, and community facilities were a sort of more even distribution between a lot of things, but certainly some support for rehabilitating our parks and playgrounds, making library investments, and some comments to support bringing the Newkirk Plaza into the DOT pedestrian plaza program. So I think the community's responses seem to track with priorities we've identified, which makes us feel like we're on the right track. But we will continue to review any community. These percentages will go into our report in our district needs statement. The individual names will not be shared as people who've presented testimony, but the input was really valuable. And so I thank those who participated and filled out that survey. We'll do it again next year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, District Manager Sean Campbell. I just want to go through the participant list and note representatives and of elected officials and elected officials that are here at this public hearing. Just starting with CB14 Chair Emeritus Alvin Burke, Special Assistant to Assemblymember Brian Cunningham, Anthony Beckford. I see Councilmember Rita Joseph is on the call. Thank you. Moving through the participant list. I see Joelle DeSauvet, also from Councilmember Joseph's office. And Ms. Lisa Derrick from Assemblymember Rodney Bouchat's office, Bouchat Hermelin's office. Nancy Lulu from District Attorney Eric Gonzalez. Very good. Okay. I just wanted to, do the council members have any input on the council member who is on the call, Rita Joseph? Do you have any input during this public hearing?
Good evening, everyone. No, I didn't. I just, the priorities are aligned with my priorities as well for the district. So I look forward to working with each and every one of you. And as you know, working with Joelle, we've also supplemented the sanitation cleaning up with ACE, and the new routes will be put out soon. So I'm really excited about that, and a lot of investment in Prospect Park as well, and also the parks. Wingate Park will get a whole new makeover. So I can't wait for a major announcement for that. So I look forward to working with each and every one of you. A lot of great announcements coming soon from our office for the green space, for trash transportation as well. So thank you for that. And the priorities are aligned with mine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. I also want to acknowledge that Eileen Mulaney Newman is here from the Borough President's Office. Thank you for being here. So that being said, do I have a motion from the floor to approve the recommendations as they have come in thus far for the, sorry, let me get back to my script. Excuse me. Those recommendations for capital expense budgets for fiscal year 2024.
Motion to approve.
Motion. Okay. Second the motion.
Glenn Wolin, second.
We don't hear you.
Are you muted?
You're muted, Chair.
Sorry about that. Excuse me. So that being said, is anyone opposed to making the recommendation for the full board to for this matter? Does anyone wish, seeing none, anyone wish to abstain from voting? Is anyone ineligible to vote? Seeing none on both of those, it passes unanimously, the recommendation, and I will make that report at the meeting that will immediately follow this public hearing at 7 o'clock. That being
Chair,
said,
can I jump in before you fully conclude the hearing?
of course.
Just to make sure that people in the public know that this was an approval to accept the input, and then there will be another public hearing probably at the November meeting because October is too close to the last day of the budget consultations. And that's when the full list of priorities will be available for preview by the public, and there will be another vote to submit them as prioritized in November.
Thank you very much for clarifying. All right. Seeing nothing else, we'll go ahead and conclude this public hearing at 6:41 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and sit tight. We'll be joining each other again in about 19 minutes for our general meeting.
Hi, Sean. Do you know what structure will be at Cortellia, where the CVS used to be? What
No,
is?
and if you, for all of, like, I'm sort of multitasking here, so maybe if you want to give a call, I can try to look into it, but no, off the top, no.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. This is Anastasia. Sean, thank you so much for accommodating.
Good evening, Anastasia. It's Joanne. Welcome.
Thank you, Joanne. Good evening.
How come I can't get you off? Let's see. What is this? Why can't I hear anything?
All right, everyone. I beat Ephraim to it. We'll go ahead and get started. This meeting of Brooklyn Community Board 14 is called to order on Monday, September 12th, 2022 at 7:00 p.m. under the applicable statutes of the New York State, the Charter of New York City, the board's bylaws, and Robert's Rules of Order. The board's policy is to encourage detailed public discussion of matters before the board at our committee meetings and at public hearings. Consequently, except by board members, there will be no public discussion at our regular monthly meetings of matters about which a public hearing or committee meeting has been held. Specific service delivery requests or complaints should be brought to the attention of the district office staff by calling the board office during regular business hours or by visiting our website anytime. Other matters of civic interest may be brought before the board during our scheduled public comment period, which will begin tonight after all other business on the board's monthly meeting agenda has been concluded. No partisan political appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises will be heard. Persons wishing to speak during the public comment period were asked to pre-register. Tonight we'll be taking attendance from the participant list. Moving the agenda to minutes. Did we have any changes via email? Thank you. Do we have any changes to the minutes of the June meeting from the floor? Seeing none, do we have a motion to adopt the minutes of the June 2022 meeting?
Hindi Bendel, motion to adopt the minutes.
Second, Ephraim Nirenberg.
Florencia.
Okay, thank you for seconding. We'll vote in the reverse. Does anyone here, any board members wish to vote against the adoption of the minutes for the 2022 meeting? Seeing none, does anyone wish to abstain? Seeing none, is anyone ineligible to vote? Seeing none, thank you. The minutes have been adopted of our 2022 general board meeting. Moving on to the district manager's report. District Manager Sean Campbell.
Thank you very much, Chair Brown. I will try to be brief. District managers across the borough have already begun our budget consultations with New York City agencies. We met on Friday with Administration for Children's Services, Department of Youth and Community Development, Department of Homeless Services, and Department for the Aging. There was also a meeting with NYCHA, which I participated in part of, but we don't have, it was mostly about NYCHA housing developments, and we don't have any in the district. So I sat in on the end of it to talk a little bit about vouchers, because we do have residents in the city who have their domiciles through a NYCHA voucher. I always find these consultations to be really informative, and while we might not always get the budget requests that we go for during the consultations that end up in our district needs statement, there's so many programs and so much information, and it kind of is just encouraging for me to hear what colleagues in city government are doing. And I've also used it as an opportunity, kind of maintaining a focus that we've had through the Human Service Committee running the annual nonprofit roundtable. Our most recent one was focused on contracting and the city's efforts to facilitate or expedite contracts. As many of you know, nonprofit organizations sometimes wait a year or two, and sometimes even more, to get their city funding reimbursements for programs and services they've already provided, and the city is slow to register contracts. So there is an effort afoot to streamline and make better this process. It's a joint effort with City Hall and the Comptroller's office. So I've been asking every city agency that does contracting how they're doing on their registering and paying contracts, and it's promising. It's a good start. ACS, for instance, is 100% caught up, and they're actually loaning out their staff to other city agencies to help them expedite their backlog. Well, not expedite their backlog, to diminish their backlog. And then just there's so much information. Just one interesting fact, and ACS actually reported that they give great deal of credit to their program reforms over the past decade. But right now there are the fewest number of young people in the foster system than ever. And so that was sort of an interesting, promising factoid, and we'll continue to talk to them about the whys with that. Moving on, you're going to hear more about this later, but it's my tradition to use the September meeting to remind everybody to clean their sidewalks and 18 inches from the curb into the street. We are one of the leafiest districts in the city with our 11,000 plus trees. So please remember, the brooms that come along and do street sweeping don't have suction. And to the extent that the brushes do pull debris into the brooms, if that happens on shift, they often have to empty the brooms. You may have seen a broom emptying into a garbage can. It's slowing both services down. It's slowing down the sweeping, it's slowing down collection, and it's going to increase the chances you're going to have a night truck. So please remember to follow through on that responsibility. And like I said, I think there'll be more on that a little bit later. Another thing that might be repeated, but just because we put it in our calendar that went out, September 22nd is a meeting that will be hosted by Assemblymember Bobby Carroll in coordination with the transportation committees of CB14, 12, and 7. We didn't have a location at the time that our notice went out, so please be advised that it will be held at the PS 130 Upper School, which is on Caton Avenue between East 7th and East 8th Streets. That is now up on our website, and I think you'll hear more about it later. And then finally, I just want to address street activities. We had a robust and enjoyable summer with a number of block parties and street events and plaza events. I want to thank the NYPD, the 70th Police Precinct, and my colleague Detective Nuzzi for working to coordinate our input on the street activities. I always strive to ensure that the fun and the community benefit of street activities is balanced with the inconvenience on that one part of the district and the resources that are expended to facilitate these events. So, this is why I've been a proponent of closing down our main thoroughfares like Coney Island Avenue and Flatbush and Church only once a year. And a little mea culpa. This Sunday, everybody should go out and enjoy the Flatbush Frolic on Cortelyou Road. It's Sunday the 18th. But there's also a block party on the 17th on Rugby Road. So I apologize to the people of Rugby and thank them for doing extra duty in supporting these two events. We do try to spread them out, but there's a lot of pressure on that September schedule. If there's any questions about street activity permits and what you need a permit for and how to obtain them, please reach out to the office, because we do want to make sure that everything that's happening in the public right of way is permitted so that people aren't taking additional chances with safety and their liability and that sort of thing. But go Sunday and have a great time. That is it from me. Thank you, Chair Brown.
Thank you very much, District Manager Campbell. I'd like to recognize elected officials and their representatives at this time. I see we have Councilmember Rita Joseph on the call. Councilmember Joseph, did you want to address the assembly?
Sure. I just wanted to say welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone had a great summer. Just a few things. Our office is now open. It's 930 Flatbush Avenue. We were having a hard time getting into our office, but we're now in our office. It's at 930 Flatbush Avenue. Of course, the numbers are still the same, 718-287-8762. Our hours are Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that's about it. We're having an event on Friday around summons. So we're going to have the office of, I know Joel was supposed to post it for me.
I emailed.
Yeah, Office of New York City Office of Administrative Trials and Hearings. They'll be at our office on Thursday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we look forward to having that. People who have summons, please come out so they can hear it and they can help you with that. So we'll be here on Thursday. Thank you. And our bathroom bill will be voted on in the council in October.
Thank you very much, Councilmember. All righty. Moving on, I see that the commanding officer, Deputy Inspector Separano from the 70th Precinct is here. Deputy Inspector, would you like to address this assembly?
Hi, how's everybody going? Welcome. I'm glad to be back after a long but short summer, I guess. I just want to talk about the Labor Day weekend that just passed. We had a really, I think, successful Labor Day weekend. Juve West Indian Day Parade was one of the most nonviolent events that I can remember in recent years. Chief Kemper at the Borough worked hand in hand with the community, whether it was violence interrupters, members of the clergy, city council members, assemblymen and women. The joint effort really helped out tremendously. This wasn't just a year where the NYPD from all different parts of the city, the Bronx, Harlem, Queens, just worked here this weekend, over the weekend, didn't know what was going on. Every member of the community, every member of the NYPD was trained on the culture of Juve and the West Indian Day Parade. And I want to thank members of the clergy and city council, assembly people that turned out the roll calls in my precinct, the 6-7, the 7-1, as well as other commands throughout Brooklyn South. And it was really because of those efforts that we had a really violence-free weekend. I just want to thank everybody that's on the call that hears this.
Thank you very much for your hard work. Thank you for joining us here tonight. And I just want to acknowledge that Detective Scott Nuzzi is here as well. How are you? Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Thank
All
you.
righty. Thank you. Continuing on to acknowledge representatives that are here tonight. From Councilmember Farrah Lewis's office, we have Sabrina Jujus. From Councilmember Ina Vernikov's office, we have Legislative Director Troy Olson. From Assemblymember Rodney Bichot's Hermelin's office, we have Lisa Derrick. From Assemblymember Brian Cunningham's office, we have Special Assistant Anthony Beckford. From Assemblymember Robert Carroll's office, we have Mary Kay Siri. From Comptroller Brad Lander's office, we have Pinkas Hyken. From DA Erica Gonzalez's office, we have Nancy Lulu. Welcome. From Borough President Antonio Rosnoso's office, we have Eileen Mulaney Newman. From Mayor Eric Adams' office, we have Brooklyn Director of Community Affairs Anastasia Yuskova. From Community Board 14, we have Chair Emeritus Alvin Burke. From the 70th Precinct Community Council, we have President Ed Powell. From the DOB, we have Ken Lazar, and from DSNY, we have Richard Day. Welcome, everyone. If I've missed you, I'm going to go through the participants list and give you a shout out a little bit later. Right now, I'm going to move on to the chair's report. All righty? Okay. Good evening, board members, and welcome back. A belated happy Labor Day. I hope all of our community members had a beautiful and rich day celebrating Juve and West Indian Day Parade. Thank you to everyone who worked so hard to make this day a success and filled with joy. Shana Tova to all who are celebrating Rosh Hashanah. May you have a good and sweet year. Moving on to Committee of the Whole, I am reporting out that no Committees of the Whole meetings took place during the summer. And I'll be a little formal, and I'll ask, do I have a motion from the floor to suspend this committee?
Dwayne Joseph, motion to suspend.
Second, Brian Nierenberg.
Thank you. We will vote in the reverse. Anyone opposed to suspending this committee? Seeing none. Anyone wishing to abstain? Seeing none. Anyone ineligible to vote? Seeing none. Thank you, everyone. The motion passes to suspend the Committee of the Whole. We're going to move on to a public hearing that took place this evening. It's the co-naming of East 19th Street and Avenue N. A public hearing was called to order at 6 p.m. on Monday, September 12th, 2022. The purpose of the hearing was to hear public testimony with respect to a request to co-name Avenue N and East 19th Street to Eddie K. Way. CB14's policy on street co-namings are to defer to the relevant New York City Council person, as street co-namings are administered through omnibus bills proposed in the council. This hearing was held at the request of New York City Council member Ina Vernikov. At this time, I'd like to invite Legislative Director for the council member Troy Olson to speak.
Hi, thank you. First off, I'd just like to thank the board for accommodating the request from the council member to weigh in on co-naming Eddie K. Way on Avenue N and East 19th. Two rationales for this. One, it's consistent with the rest of the district. And two, it'd just be nice to have a public record before submitting. And so, especially by people that would know him best and getting that on there. So thank you for holding that hearing. I know it adds to your meeting time, so I really appreciate it. Sean, you were great with this request. And thank you to every member of the board for participating. Sorry I was not able to do more than listen on it, but it was for what I did hear while I was racing back home, it sounded like a lot of great things. And then finally, just a few notes on the cross streets, northwest, southwest, southeast, northeast. One of those does need to be specified in the request. If there is a preference, please let me know, and we can do that. And that preference, of course, does need to have a directional sign on there too.
Thank you very much for that. Moving on. So the result of the public hearing for those board members that were in attendance. So the recommendation, so this was the vote count. We had 22 board members in attendance to this public hearing. There were 16 affirmations for the recommendation for the co-naming. There were 5 abstentions and 1 ineligible to vote. So with that information being said, does any board members here have any questions before I ask for motion? Feel free to raise your hand. Seeing no questions, we'll vote in the reverse order. Does the community board approve the co-naming of Avenue N and East 19th Street to Eddie K. Way? Do I have a motion for this?
I'll move.
Oh, thank you. That's Nina Sabger.
Yeah, I'd like.
I'm sorry about that. There's a question from Carl.
Yes, Chairwoman Brown, good evening. My question is just, I saw Deborah Valentine had quickly raised her hand, so I didn't know if she had a question when you had asked if any folks had any questions. So Deborah, did you have a question about the recap that Chairwoman Brown gave or no?
I just wanted to state, because I had put it in the chat, that I was also ineligible to vote because I'm a union member also. And I work for a union.
Thank you very much. So let me just readjust those counts. So there was 22 members in attendance. We'll have 15 affirmations, 5 abstentions, and 2 ineligible to vote. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, given the change in the voting spread, I just want to go ahead and ask for that motion to be brought forth again. Does this board approve the co-naming of Avenue N and East 19th Street to Eddie K. Way? Looking for a motion.
So do you want me to make the motion?
Sure, go ahead, thanks.
Okay. So I would like to move that the board approve the naming of East 19th and Avenue N, Eddie K. Way.
Thank you. Is there a board member that'd like to second?
Ed Powell, second.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. So we'll go ahead and we'll vote in the reverse. Is anyone opposed to the approval of the street co-naming? Seeing no opposition, are there any abstentions from the floor?
Joe Dweck abstains.
I have one
Brian
abstention.
Nierenberg abstain.
Dawn Marie Walker abstain.
I have a hand in the participants list that's abstaining, Moshe Schoenfeld. Okay. And is anyone ineligible to vote?
Sorry,
Deborah?
this is Musa Hassoun. I abstain as well.
Okay, thank you. So Deborah, you are ineligible to vote? Can you say for the record? And I too am ineligible to vote because I am 1199 SEIU member. All right.
Yes, I say yes. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. All righty, so we have that. We'll go ahead and tally that and they'll send that off to me in a little bit. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. Moving on to our next public hearing. And this was a public hearing with respect to.
If I can interject, Madam Chair, I think
Yes, sir.
Chairman Emeritus Burke has his hand raised.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Please go ahead, Mr. Burke.
You're muted, Alvin.
My hand was raised because the computer made me do it.
Oh, okay. Well,
Thank you for noticing.
okay. Thank you very much. Thanks. It's real hard with this participant list. When it's scrolled up, I can't see everyone. Thank you.
Oh, you're muted, Joanne.
And we're going to move on to the second public hearing that we heard tonight. This is regards to public hearing with respect to New York City capital and expense budgets for fiscal year 2024. A public hearing was called in order at 6:30 p.m. on Monday, September 12th, 2022. The purpose of the hearing was to hear public testimony by community members with respect to fiscal year 24 budget recommendations to Community Board 14. These will assist the board in its development of priorities for city resources and services in the city's fiscal year 2024 capital and expense budgets. The recommendation from those board members in attendance was to unanimously approve to accept the public input provided to Community Board 14. Are there any questions about this public hearing? Yes, Sean Campbell, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to add, I was asked, and I just want to make sure it's stated here that in addition to the answers to the survey, there were some free form suggestions in our, other box at the bottom of the survey. And we did receive some input there as well. Most of that was service delivery and suggestions for like bigger plans and policy that are sort of off budget, but still valuable and useful. And we will follow up on those as appropriate. And thanks, Corazon, for making sure that I did highlight that and got it into the record. I appreciate it.
Thank you, District Manager Sean Campbell. All right. So do I have a motion to approve? Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve input provided by the public, which will assist in developing fiscal year 2024 budget priorities?
Gail Smith, motion to approve.
Indy Bendel, second the motion.
Thank you both. We'll vote in the reverse order. Is anyone against approving this input? Seeing none, does anyone wish to abstain? Seeing none, is anyone ineligible to vote? Seeing none. Thank you very much. I just want to backtrack quickly so that everyone here knows what the final tally of the vote for the street co-naming was. We have 31 members present. We had none opposed. We have 2 ineligible. We have 5 abstentions. So that leaves 24 approvals. Thank you, everyone, for your attention to detail. Moving on. Continuing my chair's report, Executive Committee. On June 21st, 2022, the executive committee met in person at the district office. Thank you to current, reappointed, and new board members who attended the committee meeting. At the meeting, I provided new member orientations and reviewed committee meeting best practices. In accordance with the board's bylaws, specifically Section 9, Paragraph B, the executive committee conducted a job performance review with District Manager Sean Campbell. As a result of the performance review, committee members in attendance considered a merit-based salary increase for the district manager. Given the number of hours each week, she exceeds her expected base hours, as well as her high productivity and the dedication to this district. The salary increase was fully supported by all in attendance. I want to thank Ms. Campbell for her innovation, creativity, and advocacy. This action is well deserved. Do I have any questions from board members about this executive committee meeting?
Hindi Bendel comment. I just want to thank Sean for everything she does, and she's amazing. So thank you.
Thank you.
I vote for Sean for Queen of England.
Whoa. All right. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate it.
Joanne, can I quickly jump in to thank
Yeah,
everybody for the kind
course.
comments, but also note that I don't do it alone, and to thank Anya Hoyer and Patricia Olander for their dedication, support, and their hard work at making the office go.
Thank you very much, Sean. They are very much appreciated as well. I want to recognize that Assembly Member Brian Cunningham has joined us. Assembly Member, would you like to address this assembly? All right, we'll circle back. And I'm going to move on to reporting out about the Borough Board. So the first item that came before the Borough Board was the Coney Island lease extension public hearing. The city and the New York City Economic Development Corporation came before the Borough Board seeking approval for the disposition of the Thunderbolt property to New York City Land Development Corporation pursuant to Section 384B4 of the New York City Charter for assignment to NYC EDC. The Thunderbolt property is approximately 41,500 square feet, and in 2013, pursuant to the same charter amendment previously stated, was added to Central Amusement International's primary leaseholder portfolio. They will be known as CAI after this. The terms of the deal include a 10-year extension of the primary lease and will cover the years 2028 to 2037. 50% of the revenue generated by the Thunderbolt property and collected by EDC will be allotted to the Department of Parks and Recreation. Please note, on September 2nd, CB14 held a public hearing with their Economic Development Committee. Their unanimous recommendation was to approve the extension of the lease agreement. This item will go to their full board at the end of the month. At the Borough Board meeting, testimony was heard from 3 of the 4 anchor storefront tenants that will continue to operate under subleases issued by Central Amusement International, CAI. Additionally, we heard testimony from the public with strong recommendations for conditions to be added to the lease agreement that will benefit the surrounding community, including initiatives to build a local labor force, create entrepreneurial opportunities on the boardwalk, expand local nonprofit support, and fund a comprehensive Coney Island regional transportation study. During the meeting, I publicly expressed concerns about the primary leaseholder CAI. As per the press, their business dealings with the storefront tenants has been less than admirable, first attempting to evict all in 2011, then issuing new subleases in 2019 with base rent increases of 100 to 400% of previous terms. An agreement between the storefront tenants and CAI has been attached to the EDC lease extension, which compels CAI to walk back some of the 2019 base rent increases to support recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic and create a more sustainable fiscal picture going forward for the subleases. I pointed out if ever there was an example of where commercial rent control should be exercised, it is here, where a private for-profit company is operating city-owned land, and in particular, a citywide asset such as Coney Island. The Borough Board vote was tabled to await CB13's full board vote, some additional monetary data from EDC about the contract extension, and written public comment from the public due on September 9th. The Borough Board will hear this item again in October. So I'll pause if anyone has any questions about this item. I know it's a lot.
And there's a question in the chat, just to give you the opportunity to clarify, because a question about whether Coney Island is in CD14. If you could talk about why CD14 is chiming in on an out-of-district location.
So in this case, the item has gone before the Borough Board. And that's why, and because the Borough Board consists of elected officials and chairs of community boards of the borough, that's why Community Board 14 is hearing this report from me. And that's why I chimed in, because, you know, I'm inquisitive and I have opinions, and so I offered them. So I hope that answers the question. That's why Community Board, we're not having a vote or a recommendation of this. This is a Borough Board matter, which has been tabled until October.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from board members? Just to, you know, if you have any questions about that part of the report. Alrighty, thanks everyone. I guess I was clear. Moving on. And then the last item on the Borough Board's agenda was the Borough President's Comprehensive Plan Initiative to address health disparities. The Borough President's Plan will make an effort to reconnect land use and city planning to the social determinants of health. The social determinants of health are economic security, education, access and quality, healthcare access and quality, neighborhood and the built environment, and the social and community context. So I very much look forward to hearing more about the progress of his initiative as it is developed. And my last item is just a reminder, as per the bylaws, all committee appointments will be determined prior to the October board meeting, which, a reminder, is going to be very early this year on October 3rd. Okay, very good. All right, well, that concludes my report, and we will be moving on to topical committees. Wait, I think I'm just going to circle. First, I want to say that I missed Joelle Dusauvet from Councilmember Rita Joseph's office. Thanks for being here. And I'm just going to circle back and see if there's anybody else that I need to recognize. Thank you for your patience. One more second. Oh, okay. No, great. All right, moving on to topical committee reports and items. The first topical committee will be Community Environment, Cultural Affairs, and Economic Development. Thanks.
We had a meeting last Thursday, which went very well. We had sanitation there, Joe Daly from sanitation, and from the Flatbush and Church Avenue bids, we had Laura Collins. Sanitation talked about the rules and regulations, which were mentioned earlier. We have to sweep 18 inches from the sidewalk, or else tickets will be issued, and they are issuing tickets. During the winter, we have to shovel the snow within a certain period of time. And also, one of the big issues is people throwing their regular trash in corner trash cans. Apparently, that's a big issue around here. The cans, get overfilled. Then people want the cans removed. So it's sort of a round robin that makes things worse for the neighborhood. Once the cans go, people just dump their garbage on the streets. So that was pretty much what sanitation was talking about. Laura Collins, from the two bids I mentioned earlier, the Flatbush bid and the Church Avenue bid, was talking about a new project they're doing in her areas to deal with sanitation. Both bids got two large containers, car-sized containers that they put on the street. They'll lose 2 parking spaces in the area, and people will be able to, not people, but the stores will be able to put their trash in there, and hopefully that, and lock it up, and hopefully that will alleviate to some extent the rat problem. But we'll see how that goes as time progresses, and the winter gets here and the garbage goes in there. And that was pretty much it. Any questions? Okay, have a good day then. Thank you.
Actually, Don, I just want to add 2 things that came up at the end. Joe, this is it from CM Joseph's office, mentioned their tree guard initiative. They're installing 55 tree guards around the district. And also they are encouraging everyone, the new participatory budget cycle is about to begin. So they're encouraging community members to sign up to participate on the or in the participatory budget process, and you can contact their office for that. I believe Joel's going to drop that information on how to contact the office in the chat. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, both of you. Thank you very much. Moving on to community safety report.
Good evening, Chairperson Brown and everyone. There are no scheduled meetings for this month or October, but possibly in November. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the report from Housing and Land Use, please.
Thank you. I'm Talisha Sainville, and along with Gregory Alvarez, we are the co-chairs of the Housing and Land Use Committee, and we're going to have our next meeting on Monday, September 19th at 6:30 p.m. I believe that's the time, 6:30 p.m. So please join us if you can. Thank you.
Thanks, and can I just throw an announcement in there, germane to your committee? So Borough Hall has organized ULURP training. That's going to happen on September 22nd. Just want to, give you a little preview of that. At the same night, we're going to have that DOT meeting with both Council Member Rita Joseph and Assembly Member Robert Carroll. So, if you're not going to attend the public hearing, which is very focused on the north end of the district, please do go attend the ULURP training so that we can all talk in the same language when we get to these applications. Thank you very much for your report. Moving on to Human Services.
Nina. Hi, it's Joel Siegel here. I don't have a report, and I don't think we have a meeting this month. Maybe Sean's got something lined up for next month.
To be determined. October's kind of squishy with holidays and everything, but I'll be in touch with all chairs, and we will schedule meetings that are time sensitive. We'll get the first priority, and then we will catch up with the committees that are waiting for their first meeting of the season.
I'm sure we're going to have a great year.
I just wanted to put in that the Ruth Bader Ginsburg wing of Coney Island Hospital is up and open, and it still looks like there's other construction going on there, but I know that's something that we had heard about earlier before the summer break. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that report and that announcement. Just regarding the ULURP training, I don't think that it's going to be recorded. I believe Borough Hall said that they were going to provide us with the materials for those who couldn't attend. And then as for the time of the training, we'll get a more formal email out there for you. I see Sean has her hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I also wanted to remind this board that we did a little of our own capacity building last year by asking David Weisglass from Department of City Planning to come and do a ULURP training that pertains specifically to CB14. So that's a pretty solid resource. And then our Lunch and Learn information is still on the YouTube channel too. And we will do what we can. We will certainly, anything that Borough Hall makes available following the training, we will pass on to the board and post if able. We were a little bit sorry that it clashed with, 3 boards are involved in this DOT meeting. So the timing is a little unfortunately, but again, there's only so many days in a month. So we'll see, we'll try to get the information out further. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Transportation Committee meeting.
Chair Brown, hope everyone had a great summer. Nothing really to report. I'll just echo the numerous mentions of the upcoming September 22nd DOT meeting regarding the BQE interim repair detours. That's again at 6:30 p.m. September 22nd, PS 130 Upper School at 713 Caton Avenue. For those who don't know the background, it basically during 2023, specifically March through October 2023, there's going to be 3 weekends where the BQE is closed. That I believe, I'm not sure of all 3, either 2 or 3 of them. Traffic's going to be rerouted down Prospect Expressway, and eventually to Caton Avenue, and then to Linden Boulevard, according to what the Department of Transportation has put out there and their presentation to Community Board 2 and Community Board 6. So Assemblymember Carroll organized this upcoming meeting along with the community boards around here that are impacted. So I hope folks can come. I realize there's other things going on that evening, but it should be very informative. And I know I've already heard from a number of community members who are concerned about the increased traffic and safety issues regarding the rerouting. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much for that announcement and report. The next will be from Youth Education and Libraries.
Hey folks, good evening. And so, happy September, welcome back. Hope summer was relaxing. And so I'll keep this update brief. And so part 1 of the briefing is that on June 16th, we had a meeting. And so the meeting was attended by, some of the wonderful community board members. And so that meeting, very high level, we discussed some of our initial takeaways from the youth conference event that had just been put on. And then we also discussed some potential ideas for the upcoming one. So there were some ideas that were shared in terms of, other ways to look at the timeline for communication and how to phase that communication approach to keep this in their minds. There were some thoughts about what are potential other ways to host the youth conference, like anything from what we've done to potentially maybe a street fair or other ideas. So there was a lot of good sharing of ideas and initial kind of debrief of our thoughts from the event that we had just recently put on. So that's part 1. Part 2 is that the next meeting is TBD. And so, yes, when that is scheduled, everybody will be notified. And then part 3 is last year's co-chair. Nikki, she works for an intercultural organization. And so I did accept her invite to go to the 27th annual youth conference kickoff at the UN. So I went there on Friday, August 12th, and it was fascinating. I had a lot of interesting thoughts about, being at the UN around that time, but that's not irrelevant for this. What's relevant is that the opening ceremony had about, hundreds of students from over 70 countries. And the whole idea was that they were going to spend those 3 days discussing how the youth conference could align with the sustainable goals that the UN comes out with every year. And at some point they had a panel. And I liked that the panel got a little spicy because at one point, one of the questions or the charges to the students, to the youth, was about intergenerational collaboration, but that in and of itself can either be a check mark or a power imbalance, depending on how you look at it. And so the conversation got a little spicy when people were trying to say exactly what do you mean, and I like that. And so bottom line, that's the update, and glad to see people's faces and looking forward to this year. That's it.
Thank you very much for that report. Moving on to our ad hoc committees. CB14 Flatbush African Burial Ground Task Force, please. I'll jump in on that. There's been no recent meetings that need to be reported out on, and we're working on scheduling a task force meeting in the next month or so. All right, thanks everyone. This brings us to our public session. This brings us to our public comment period. Board members are expected to remain for the public comment period. Because we are meeting remotely, all speakers are asked to pre-register via email to the board office. Any member of the public who is not able to register in time can follow up directly with the board and staff, who will include appropriate announcements on the CB14 website. Matters of civic interest and announcements of public events are invited. No public partisan appeals or advertising of for-profit enterprises are permitted. Service delivery requests should be brought to the attention of staff by email or during regular business hours. I can't stress enough that if you have a concern in the community, to please contact the community board office. We can give you so much more attention than we can in this forum, okay? Each speaker will be permitted up to 3 minutes and may not receive additional time from another speaker. The board has an obligation to conduct its business in an orderly manner. Any person preventing the meeting from continuing will be muted and possibly disconnected from the meeting. The intent of the public comment period is to permit the board and the community a chance to hear diverse perspectives on public issues. Accordingly, we ask that groups be represented by a single speaker. It is now 7:46 p.m. Anya Hoyer will be announcing our previously registered speakers at this time.
Good evening, everyone. Our first pre-registered speaker is Richard Day from the Department of Sanitation.
Great. Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good night so far. I'm just here to make a quick announcement about our fall leaf collection. It's kind of crazy to think about, leaves already when summer's just in our rearview mirror. But we've got 2 dates coming up where folks can set out all of their leaves, and the department will collect them and turn them into compost. So that information is on our website at nyc.gov/leaf collection. So the 2 dates are November 20th and December 4th. Residents can set out their leaves in paper, lawn, and leaf bags, which we'll be providing to the office for free. Or you can use an unlined rigid container. So any basically trash pail or anything like that, just no bag inside of it, just fill it with leaves. Set that out on the curb on those days. It'll get collected and turned into compost. That's really all I got, so keep an eye out. Hopefully we'll get an announcement in a newsletter. I think we're also sending out a mailer to everyone as well. So you'll definitely be hearing from us again, but otherwise head to your board office for those leaf bags. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Our next speaker is Randy Reed from the Center for NYC Neighborhoods. Randy, are you here? I'm going to come back to Randy. I don't see him. Let's go to Joan Mosley from the Academy for College Preparation and Career Exploration.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for allowing me to share about our wonderful secondary school as an amazing educational option for students ages 10 and up in our community. We are a small public school located on the Erasmus campus in Brooklyn. My name is Joan Mosley, and I am in my 6th year as the very proud principal of the Academy for College Preparation and Career Exploration. We're located at 911 Flatbush Avenue, Brooklyn, in District 17. We are a 6 to 12 school with approximately 400 students, and our goal is to maintain a small school environment to ensure personalized programming and support for each student. Our mission is to ensure that all students leave our school equipped to go on to their preferred futures, whether that is a career or a college or university. We are also a 21st century community school, and as such, we provide a host of wraparound supports for students and families, including mental health and wellness resources, robust after-school programming for all students in grades 6 to 12, and daytime activities that foster student leadership. In addition to being a community school, we are committed to advancing intergenerational economic mobility for our students. To that end, we have a phenomenal initiative we call the Pathways Program, first year free. Students in high school select a major at the end of freshman year in business and finance, STEM, or civics, and can earn up to 15 college credits during the school day. We also have a multitude of partnerships that ensure students get access to paid apprenticeships at companies such as Accenture, Brooklyn Navy Yard, JetBlue, Amazon, and a host of other amazing companies. Many of our students are now working as junior coders and business specialists in various companies and receive a commitment of work for 1 full year after high school graduation. We provide career tours and college campus trips across the U.S. as well as in state. Our middle and high school students have podcasting classes, visual arts, stage and theater classes, culinary classes, and financial literacy classes where they create business plans and participate in Shark Tank-like programming, where at the conclusion, the winners' businesses are funded by the judges. We often host community groups for meetings, so I open it up to the board. And if anyone is in need of meeting space on our campus, we're always happy to support that. We have a beautiful auditorium, which you see behind me, and we are available to provide tours to any family members who need it or want it or interested for more information. So I will put my email address in the chat along with a flyer for your information, and I really appreciate being a part of tonight's meeting. It was very interesting to be in Community Board 14's presence. Thank you so much and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you very much, Joan. Next, we have Mary Kay Siri from Assembly Member Robert Carroll's office.
Thanks, Anya. Appreciate it. Hi, guys. So in addition to the September 22nd meeting that's gotten a lot of play, as it should, because it's such an important meeting, we also have 2 other events that I want to announce. The first is the MTA MetroCard van that's going to be parked in front of Assemblymember Carroll's office on Thursday, September 29th from 10 to 2. And you can take care of all your MetroCard business there. And in addition, we have free flu shots in partnership with Methodist Hospital, and that's Thursday, November 3rd, also from 10 to 2. And if you want to make an appointment, just call the office and we will set you up. So that's it. September 22nd for the DOT BQE meeting, September 29th for MetroCard van, and November 3rd for flu shots. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mary Kay. Next, we have Eileen Mullaney Newman from the Borough President's Office. Go ahead, Eileen.
Hi, everyone. Good evening and welcome back, Community Board 14 members. We do appreciate your service and thank you for everything you do. One of the things I wanted to just highlight is that during the summer, Borough President Reynoso fulfilled one of his most critical campaign promises, allocating his entire fiscal year 23 capital funding to help close racial disparities among maternal mortality rates. And he gave $45 million to 3 public hospitals, which was Woodhull, Coney Island, and Downstate. This is the first time that a borough president has allocated his entire fiscal year capital funding to one issue. The BP is committed to strategic maximum input for maximum outcomes. We're also continuing to advocate for meaningful legislation that will positively impact our communities. To stay in touch, please follow us on social media at BKBP Reynoso on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and go to our website, brooklyn-usa.org, and go on to the Contact Us page to subscribe to our newsletter. We have lots of stuff coming up. I don't want to add to another September 22nd event, but we do have a Georgian American event that evening at Borough Hall. All are welcome. And we also have a couple of other events coming up on 9/27. We're going to have a stop and swap at Borough Hall. So bring your gently used items down and you can leave them there. no electronics, paint, things like that. We'll have the flyer up on our website. And also we have Adopt a Shelter Animal on October 1st. And I know there's got to be room in somebody's home for another rescue animal, please. So again, thank you. Happy to be back with you all, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Eileen. Next, we have Anastasia Yaskova from the New York City Mayor's Office. Go ahead, Anastasia.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, all. It's good to be back. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone enjoyed the summer. I don't really have any announcements, but I just wanted to share a great appreciation to NYPD for their support and actually pretty much taking care of all the events for Jubilee weekend and Labor Day parade. It was absolutely amazing. And again, thank NYPD. Also CB14, Sean, Joanne, you guys doing a great job. And just to let everyone know, we're here as far as the mayor's office. We're here for you. Please reach out. I will share my information in the contact as always, or anyone from community board who has my information can share it, and I will gladly assist anyone. Again, welcome back, everybody. Let's get ready. It's going to be, as always, interesting and eventful. And thank you all for doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Sabrina DeZust from Councilmember Farah Lewis's office. Go ahead, Sabrina.
Can everyone hear me, just to make sure? Okay, perfect. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back. It is the start of the fall season. Our meetings are back in session, so it's great to see all you guys on the meeting. So for those who do not know, my name is Sabrina DeJust. I'm the Community and Constituent Liaison for Councilmember Farah Lewis, who represents District 45. And I just have a few updates from our office. So we had another successful year. Of course, summertime passed us. We are back in session for school, so we want to just give a good luck to all of our students in District 45, especially CB14, on a successful academic year. You guys got this. You guys got this. For our we held our third annual back to school event at Hello Plaza on September 3rd. We were able to serve over 500 plus families with bags, school supplies, refreshments, and resources. So that was really phenomenal. In addition to, we hosted a series of sports, CD45 youth sports. So we've had soccer, golf, baseball, basketball, and tennis. So we had a series of sports available for all of our youth. So that was phenomenal. Everybody got certificates. They completed the entire series. Let me see. And lastly, for our upcoming events, we have our mammogram screening on September 17th at 1894 Flatbush Avenue, right in front of the Bridge Multicultural Advocacy Project. So we encourage all of our women to sign up. No insurance is needed. Women over the age of 40 are allowed to sign up. And that's it for me for today. And still, we are located at 1434 Flatbush Avenue, still offering housing and immigration services. And if you guys have any questions for me, I'll be here.
Thanks very much. Next is Nancy Lulu from the Brooklyn DA's office.
Thank you, Anya. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone had a great summer. I bring greetings on behalf of DA Gonzalez to everyone. The Brooklyn DA has been extremely busy throughout the summer. Not only have we been prosecuting cases, but we've held and participated in several community events. It was really great for us to be out there and to see everyone. Also, I wanted to share that on June 22nd, DA Gonzalez announced the Stop the Violence initiative. It's a comprehensive strategy to fight gun violence in Brooklyn. Under this groundbreaking initiative, the DA's office is dedicating unprecedented resources to enhance the office's analytics, investigative, and technological capacity to prevent violence and to hold accountable those who commit gun crime. The new investment include a $2 million digital evidence lab, a ghost gun unit, and an executive position focusing on gun violence reduction. We are using every tool in our disposal to keep Brooklyn safe from gun violence. If you're interested to learn more about this initiative, please visit the Brooklyn DA's office's website at brooklyndA.org. And also, as always, if there's anything you would like to speak to us about or address with our office, you could reach us at our Action Center at 718-250-2340. And also, as Anastasia Yaskova from the mayor's office mentioned, thanking the NYPD for all their efforts. I would like to thank them for their partnership as also, with the Labor Day planning and all that. And as always, thank you to Community Board 14 for everything that you do, and looking forward to working with everyone. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Nancy. Is Samira Noor with us this evening? Okay, so we're going to move on to our next registered speaker, Kevin Zhang. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hello, CB14, and good evening. My name is Kevin Zhang, and also I want to mention about the Brooklyn bus redesign, and I need to bring back the B23 bus that runs along 16th Avenue and Cotillion Road and extend along Beverly Road, Brooklyn Avenue, and Linden Boulevard. B16 bus runs straightening along Fort Hamilton Parkway, eliminate 6 turns. And the B35 Limited will be changed select bus service and continue ones on the local bus for the B35 bus, and also the 68 bus will be adding select bus service. And in addition, for the B41 needs to be changed from limited to select bus service for the B41 bus that runs along Flatbush Avenue, and the B49 Limited will be changing to select bus service as well. So thank you and have a nice day.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Kevin. That is our final registered speaker this evening, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anya. Thank you very much to all of our pre-registered speakers. Well, we did it. We got all of that in an hour and a half. Thank you, everyone. I hope you had a good summer. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Cindy Bendel, motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Thank you, Chair Brown. Very good meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And again,
Excellent meeting.
Thanks, everybody. Happy, healthy New Year.
Thank you.
have a wonderful Rosh Hashanah.
Shana Tova. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Now,
everyone.
how will we know when the next one is?
Good night, everyone.
Community board.
Go ahead, Sean.
Community board posts its schedule on the website, and you can always call the office for any follow-up information on anything you heard tonight.
Thank you so much. I'm new to this, so I appreciate it.
Welcome, Courtney. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And by the way, we adjourned at 8:02. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for the record.
Thank you.